with Aashima Gupta from Google Cloud and from Jen Horonjeff from Savvy Cooperative. We've just had a wonderful session at the conference, the plenary, on day 2, and the theme of the plenary was putting patients at the centre of healthcare. And it was wonderful to hear both of them speaking, because together we heard the story about how data is enabling people to access their information, and it's really about the democratisation of health. And then we heard from Jen about how patients can take a much more active role, and the questions that we as industry need to be asking of those patients to ensure that we make the right decisions with them. So I'll put it to you, Aashima, first. You're the Director for Global Healthcare Solutions at Google. Where do you see the biggest barriers in your role in enabling healthcare to take on the digital challenge?
Thank you, Shannon. It's so from Google Cloud perspective, when we are working with organizations and different companies, the challenge that they're facing, healthcare is not different than any other industry, if you will. Right? All these industries have been built over a number of decades, a lot of legacy infrastructure, a lot of data, and if you consider healthcare by itself, the challenge is healthcare was built for when people walk into the clinic. Mm-hmm. You needed help, you went to the hospital. Now we are talking about a paradigm, care where you are. So that means your data is not confined to the 4 walls of the hospital, but it needs to be available at the mobile device that your provider has subscribed. So that data liquidity, the systems were not built with that mindset in mind.
Yeah.
And when you're looking into cloud, it is about a holistic strategy. I would submit to you, if you're talking about infrastructure, lift and shift, that's not what Google Cloud is. Or it's about transformation. It's a holistic strategy of really building applications and infrastructure and modernizing the environment to enable this next generation applications.
No, fantastic. And so, if I look back at the way healthcare has been run, Jen, the concept that the doctor knows all and that the doctor is the font of knowledge. But now we have the situation when patients come in with a whole stack of information from Dr. Google. So we've seen that patients are becoming empowered. How can we make patients more empowered in decisions around their healthcare?
It's a great question, and I think when we think about empowering patients and where can they have more agency, that comes at sort of 2 points, both in their own care and how they interact with their own clinicians, as well as how can they interact with the system as a whole. So when we think about what you talked about, a patient's going to go in and speak with their provider, they may have lots of information. First of all, we need to see that as a good thing. We need to stop saying, don't go Google things, don't go searching, just leave it up to me, the doctor, to tell you all that we need to know. There are patients that are going to fall different places on that spectrum. Some people are going to want that. Some people just want to be told what to do, and that's fine, but we have to also be accommodating to those that really are proactive about finding that information. And so I think with certain technologies, we can really help to facilitate that empowerment so that the patient can find the right amount of information and agency that works for them.
So I know one of the things that in the research that I've done, the real power of data is around being able to aggregate information from individual patients, because the power of one is amplified when you look at many. And the concept that if we can utilise the information of many to help one patient. How do you see that, Aashima, rolling out from the perspective of the security of that information if we do have patients' data and we're accessing that to help make decisions about a single patient? How do you make that safe?
That's a great question. When we talk about patients being at the forefront of where the healthcare industry is going, it becomes paramount that security is considered from get-go. It's not an afterthought. As I mentioned before, the systems are built when a patients walk into a facility. Now the paradigm is when I'm outside of the hospital, those systems have to interact. What are the security protocols, right? So as an example, there are technologies like OAuth, which allow you to log into your credentials. The technology from Google Cloud perspective, security is baked into the infrastructure where we are putting together the best of breed in the security principles as we have built that infrastructure. That way you can feel assured that we are following the security guidelines, and these are the same infrastructure that powers Google's products, if you will. And the same security prowess is now available to the enterprises.
So when I access my bank app on my phone, I can pull out all of my bank information. I can do transactions and do all that sort of things. Is it a similar sort of thing that we're talking about when we talk about patient data, that we're having the same sort of security that you will in a bank app? Is it sort of the same sort of thing?
It's the same thing. The underlying technology is APIs. So when a patient, Shannon, is requiring an information from a health system, there is an API where you are not, that each call to access your data is audited, is accessed, and you're given a token. So you can then access your information by giving that token. That whole concept of the grunt work, if you will, is API management, that your data is exposed via these constructs like APIs, and each of that API call, like if I require, like as an example, my medication, that API is exposed, and you're given an access token to your app. Your app uses that token to go to your system, and the system recognizes that token that yes, this request is coming for you. Of course, there's security and there's consent. I want to make sure there's a difference. In this case, you have given the consent to pull your information via an API. What security will do is make sure that is a secure access, is audited, it's all the auditability, access is controlled. Then there's a consent portion that you as a consumer have given the consent to access that data. So both go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite amazing when you think about the technology that has only really come forward in such a short period of time. But from a patient's perspective then, Jen, how much do you see people engaging with and utilising technology, apps, in the way that they think about their health?
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that there is a spectrum, so there's not any one answer that describes the whole population and how they interact with technology. But there's certainly lots and lots and lots of technology being thrust upon consumers now. And the question is, are they actually meaningful? Do they make an impact in a patient's life? Are they easy to use? Is it an experience that is similar to those that they're used to on other platforms that they may be using? And I think the more that we come out with these either apps or products, digital services, that we haven't done our due diligence in working with the patients to co-create them, then they fall short. And they're not interacting, and be it if they're trying to get their medical records integrated into it, or they're expected to use it in their daily lives, yet it wasn't meant to match up with all the other things that they're using or just what their lifestyle is, then there's no way to be able to use it in a sustainable way that is meaningful to the patient.
So look, I think, from the presentations that we've heard from you both this morning, which were just fabulous, we are at least going, I think, in the right direction to build digital platforms that will both enable companies, governments, and patients have more engagement that provide an opportunity for better control and better centricity around the patient. And I hope, as we see the rest of the conference, that message will be continued through the sessions. And thank you both very much for coming along to speak with us from across the other side of the world, and look forward to working with you both in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.